Now, this is literally the most completely terrifying part of an actor's job. It's infinitely worse than a first night because, you see, one has no mask to hide behind. One is playing the hardest character of all, oneself. All the more surprising, then, that just about every analysis of the craft of acting fails completely to tackle chat show technique. And that's what we're going to be looking at tonight. So first, a few sitting exercises just to get ourselves warmed up. Now, we're safely in the chair, and we're ready to natter away about what we've been up to. Let's see how Anthony Andrews, a real master of the relaxed interview, and also a bloody good mate, gets himself started.
Yes, we've just completed what I suppose could be called a trial run at Greenwich, which was very successful, of a play called One of Us, which, for me, was quite an event.
Yes. Now, Anthony's done something very clever here. Not only has he established that he's successful, but he's also slipped in a "for me" very early on. It's a key phrase which we use to convey sincerity and vulnerability. There's a slight risk of self-consciousness, but of course Anthony knows what he's doing. He's used it before.
For me, I just want the variety. The thing for me, the bit like that for me.
As has Jeremy Irons.
I haven't found many good scripts coming out of Hollywood, for me.
And Julie Walters.
It comes from kind of, well, for me.
And Albert Finney.
For me.
Anyway, back to Anthony's play at Greenwich.
Which, for me, was quite an event, because it's been nearly 9 years since I was on the stage. Not by design.
Another important point is that however many films and TV series one has to go off and do, one's heart is always in the theatre.
I think I'm essentially a theatre chap myself.
We have great theatre in this country, and I
always go back to him. He's the love of my life. I mean, when in doubt, go off and do some Shakespeare.
I love the theatre, but I must say the films I was never really happy in.
Stuart Granger there, speaking, I'm sure, for a great many of us. But back to Anthony.
Because it's been nearly 9 years since I was on the stage. Not by design, but mainly because I was looking for a new piece of material.
We're scoring points all the time here. It's always good to show that you're selective about what you do, otherwise the audience might think you simply have to take whatever work is offered to you.
I turned down a lot of parts because they seemed to me to be merely decorative.
There's a stage, you know, if you want to do anything where you have to. Well, I wanted to go into movies, and I wanted to go into London theatre, and I thought I must not do anything. I mustn't go and work in rep, because that's what I want to do. So instead of working in rep, where I don't want to work for a bit, I will do gardening.
Yes, that's perhaps going a bit too far, Jeremy. There were some nice intentions there, though. But let's see how the master rounds off his opening remarks.
And it went particularly well, and yes, we're now actively looking for a theatre, and I hope to bring it in after I finish my next film.
Well, I mean, you can't really better this. He's relaxed, well-dressed, a nice, modern haircut. He's established that he's successful, he's sincere, he loves the theatre, and he's choosy about what he does, and he's got a job coming up.
Always in your remarks, Mrs. Gillick, you've always somehow monopolized the notion that you have some sort of peculiar standing on virtue and of some sort of peculiar sensitivity, which we are all somehow impervious to. It's monstrous and tyrannical. All of us have the same sense of misgiving and offense at the spectacle of these fetuses, precisely because they have got a marginal relationship to the sort of things to which we extend civil rights, in other words, actual people. And the reason why we respect corpses is because they have been actual people and they have respectable biographies. A fetus has not had a biography, and it never will have, and therefore we have a very peculiar and distinctive quasi-respect for a fetus.
Well, that's a medical point.
No, it's not a medical point, it's a philosophical one. It has nothing to do with that.
You see, what this discussion is now revolving around, in a sense, is the right or not of the fetus to be in it. And what it strikes me as, are we talking about offending public decency, or are we really using this as an excuse to have a row about abortion and whether or not it's legal?
Is that what the prosecution is about? What is going on is that the issue about abortion is being now fought out here. It's being taken to another place.
Not at all.
And this is not...
Not at all.
All right, why are you not worried about the exhibitions of dried mummies in the British Museum?
Because they're thousands of years old. They've been opened up by other people. It's got nothing to do with...
Why does it have
what
nothing to do?
Because
What-
we're
what
not
is the
talking about...
what
If
is
you
the
want to
statute-
talk about...
How old
dead-
would the fetuses have to be before you would, as it were, suspend your sense of outrage?
Probably thousands of years old, and I would
at
still
what point? At what point is the deadline?
argue with you that it was wrong.
Oh, you mean more wrong for a fetus of 1,000 years than a corpse of 1,000 years?
No, I would argue that they were both wrong.
Oh, you would say that it's wrong to exhibit corpses?
I think it is a bit peculiar, yes. But when... You've got to get back... This is not to do with art.
Well, I
Oh,
think
yes, it's to do with that. This is called a work of art.
Well,
We're here
I
discussing
can call that a work of art, but it doesn't make it so.
Nicely leads me on to another piece that was made 4 years after Longbox. It's called Oak Tree, of course, and it's a rather celebrated piece because, in fact, it holds out a promise of something that definitely isn't there. There's a glass of water on a shelf rather than a great big oak tree. I wonder if, after all these years, it's still an oak tree, and if indeed it was still an oak tree this afternoon when you poured some fresh water into that glass.
Well, it only becomes an oak tree when I put the water into the glass, so in that sense, beforehand, it wasn't an oak tree, and now it definitely is, despite its appearance.
What was it before?
It was just a glass and some water.
It's uncanny because it looks so much like a glass of water on a shelf now.
It does amazingly, but it is in fact an oak tree.